on Roy's dream that just, because Roy's dream was so important. And, I kind of re-listened to what you said at the end, Roy, about that you are not, you have stepped away from the personal and moved into another realm, and people don't really understand it, and so they don't understand you or something. What did you want to just talk about that a little bit? Hi, Tim.
Well, Young talks about that in Memory, Dreams, and Reflections. And
Yeah.
you get to a certain space where personal stuff really doesn't matter to you. You're interested in, why you feel like a rock or a cloud, and you just merge with things and get into things that regular people aren't interested in. And it becomes your life, and then it alienates you.
It's personality number 2, really.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. He mentions that, when he was in Bollingen, that if you were to come visit him there, like Barbara Hanna liked to come and visit him there. And he said that first she had to stay for a week in Bollingen, so she didn't bring the air of Kusnacht into his his sacred place he was in, because it was just hi Gary, how's it going? Yeah, well, I wanted to go ahead. Anybody else got a comment on that? I wanted to show one other thing I about that dream, and then we'll do Charles' dream and then Tim's dream. But any other comments about that, or about the the strange mystery of who are you? Can you prove who you are? Then the room is emptied, and Gary had a wonderful little thing on that too. I think when the room was emptied, and you mentioned that too, that everything had been removed, and I want to show you that when you said that, I was thinking about this. I just wanted to show you. This is a kind of a famous. This was I think it was from the Vision Seminars, but let me make sure I've got the source here on it. Well, no, it's from the ETH lectures, and Young talks a lot about active imagination in those ETH lectures, and he says at one point, it was right after Roosevelt, after he had first had the Anschluss and took over Austria, and then he demanded the Sudetenland, and at the Munich conference, Neville Chamberlain goes there, and Czechoslovakia was one of the largest industrial countries in Europe at the time, the Skoda works, and it also had an unbelievable defensive perimeter around it. It was, and the Czech army was very fierce and very well armed, and so when Neville Chamberlain, for peace in our time, ceded the Sudetenland to Germany. These were German-speaking Czechs, and then so they take that over, and then suddenly he annexes all of Czechoslovakia. This was like in March of 1939, and Roosevelt sends him a letter, that's after this as an annexation, and he gives a list of countries that he wants Hitler to promise that he will leave alone. And it's a big, long list. And almost every one of them invaded, you know, Poland, Denmark, Norway. And so in the Reichstag, Hitler reads this letter with, you know, in the mocking tones, and everybody starts laughing, you know, because, you know, he's reading Hitler's or Roosevelt's letter, and he says, Turkia, Alemania, you know, and he goes through all these, and then he finally gets to Iran and, you know, some other country. And anyway, that very same day of this lecture, Jung is having a seminar on active imagination. And he says in it, he says, I know that this is not a very popular subject in this day and age when acts are being made and broken. And he says, I really don't care what they do, because whatever they do, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't make any difference. They're going to break it in any case. And then he goes and starts talking about active imagination. But here's one of the things he says. I mean, it was a very eerie lecture, you know, because it was right at this point. And this just reminded me of the empty room that Gary was talking about. It's possible through active imagination to make all your psychic activities into separate entities. You know, you can talk to him, you know, objectify or personify the objective, personify your inner psychic activities, give them names, talk to them, your feet, your heart, your lungs, to make into separate entities. And in this way, they are removed from yourself. So this is depersonalization. You know, in other words, it's this neti. This is part of me, but it's not me, you know. And one's thinking, for instance, this is really cool, becomes a separate being. Somebody thought that, but it wasn't me, you know. You see it no longer as your own action, but as a daemon. Guess what thoughts threw at me today? Guess what thought did today in my head? Guess what thought did to me today? I'm going to talk to thoughts, the person who brings me my thoughts. Thoughts, why did you think that? You know, and give him a name, you know. And through delegating the functions, I become a part of a theatrical company. Everything in me is an actor, okay? Everything in me is an actor. I'm, you know, I become a whole theatrical company instead of one person who ought me to myself, okay? I am emptied of them. And then I find I am shunyata, the void. Now, who says things like this? You know, I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful. I mean, has anyone ever spoken like this before? You know, James Hollis said that Jung was the greatest intuitive thinker who ever lived. He says, everything in it, my thoughts, my emotions, my sense of beauty and everything, there's separate entities in me, and they're not really me. I'm the witness to all of this that's going on in this whole theatrical company. But anyway, then you ask, show me your identity. Show me your identity papers where you can get in here, you know, before you can take off from the earth into the celestial realms. Who you are, you know. I mean, it's just beautiful. I thought of that because of you know, the empty room and how Gary framed it, you know.
Could you
I just
send
couldn't
that
find
out,
it that.
Craig? That's just, I just love that, you know.
Yes,
especially
I
in-
will.
You know, the thing that I really like too is that if you see all these things as separate daemons, then the whole thought, you know, the whole process of just emptying yourself of all of them so that you can become the void. It just makes sense.
And it sort of it makes you understand what shunyata is, you know, the fullness of emptiness. When we have become emptied of everything, we are the most full. We have suddenly become divine, you know, if you can empty yourself of all of these personalistic aspects and view them not as the center of my awareness is not all of that, you know. Yeah, I'll send it out.
Well,
and-
you didn't do that. You know,
yeah.
you participated, embodied in all his ego personalities to the fullest.
Well,
He
yes,
was
he did.
aware. He was aware of what you're saying, but he didn't do that. He did both. He honored
Yes.
both.
Well, and this
That's
is
the
something-
point. That's what makes him different in the East. You know, that's the revolutionary thing.
Yeah, he's very much westernized it because he realizes that these images are him, and he needs to learn from them by talking with them and gleaning their wisdom.
He honors those ego personalities. He's
Yeah,
able to develop the witness, and he had the witness, and he understood what it was, but he honored these ego personalities because that's what rooted him in the ground. That was his foundation. You know, in the East, they just bypass the foundation.
Yeah,
Jung was trying to make that point. That works in poverty. He was saying that works in poverty, in a culture of poverty, but not in the affluent West. It's just, you know, it's just a bunch of air. It's just mental air stuff. It doesn't have any substance in the West.
Well, and he said one other thing that is on this very point. In Memories, Dreams, and Reflections, you know, and people would ask him, what was William James like? You knew William James. What was Pierre Janet like? You knew Pierre Janet. You know, you knew Nietzsche's wife. What was she like? You know, you knew all of these wonderful people. What were they like? And he says, you know, it's all like a dream. He says, the older I get, the less energy any of those things that happen to me have.
He's not interested in that.
No, but he says, my dreams, my visions, the images are growing all the time.
That's
Because
what
he
was
keeps
living
reading.
for him. That was the living Jung right there.
Yeah. But it all comes back to this part in your who are you before you can take off from the earth and go to the celestial realms. I think we need to know who we are.
I mean, that's just something that we need to be reminded of from time to time. It's not a goal or something that we should be obsessed with, I think. It's just something to be reminded of from time to time. We're down here dealing with the now, the presence. We have to engage our ego and personalities.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's. I mean, anyway, the dream was a great dream. It really was a great dream. Well, let's.
I have two other dreams by Jung that are pretty interesting. You'll probably remember them if you would like to hear them. That have to do with this subject.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. The first one, Jung goes on to relate two dreams that gave him a profound insight into the nature of personal identity. The first dream, he's at his house in Kushnat when four unidentified flying objects appear in the sky. One of them looks like a projector with a circular lens attached to the main body. Unlike the other three, this latter object stands still in the air, pointing straight at Jung. Upon awakening, he interpreted this to mean that his empirical personality, his ego body system, was merely a projection of something transcendental and enduring.
Mhm.
Second dream. You remember that one? Okay,
Well,
second,
yes, very much, because it reminded me of my telescope dream.
yes. Okay, the eye, the all-seeing eye.
Mhm.
Second dream, Jung wanders into a wayside chapel. Just in front of the altar, he sees a yogi sitting on the floor in a lotus position and meditating with his eyes closed. When Jung gets closer, he realizes that the yogi has Jung's face. Startled, he awakes with the following thought. So he is the one who is meditating me. He has a dream and I am it. I knew that when he awakened, I would no longer be. Myself retires into meditation and meditates my earthly form. That's from Memories, Dreams, and Reflections.
Well, yeah, and that is basically this idea of that Jung's soul told him, his anima.
That's right.
You know, and remember when I was saying that that we are the satellites that are sent out in time and space, and then we're supposed to be the capsule. We're really supposed to be the space capsule of the soul, you know. And so the soul that the Jung that he saw the guy that he saw in the chapel with his face is the soul.
It's
We
the soul.
are, and Jung, the phenomenal Jung, is the space capsule of this entity sitting in the chapel with flowers on the altar. So the idea is, and it's also, it's very similar.
Well, it's illusory.
Mhm.
The guy in the spaceship, the capsule, that's the illusory thing.
Yeah, and it reminded me too of the dream of Vishnu sleeps on the cosmic serpent, you know, dreaming the dream of the universe. Now, he's not just dreaming the dream of the universe, he's dreaming the dream of us, you and me. Okay? And this guy who had become a devotee of Vishnu had gotten to such a point that he falls out of Vishnu's mouth onto the serpent. Okay, so he's actually entered, left Plato's cave, and now he's fallen onto he's outside with Vishnu now. He's outside the dream. You know, this is kind of Roy, your lucid dreaming. You know, he's outside the dream, and Vishnu says, "Oh no, you can't do that," and then puts him back in himself. But see, that is the same entity that Jung saw in the chapel. That was Vishnu dreaming not the dream of the universe, but dreaming the dream of us. You know, I mean, and anyway, see that very dream that you mentioned about the space capsule is one that a lot of people had. That there's everywhere they go, there is an eye. You know, some of them see eyes everywhere. You know, everything has eyes. You know, there's this alchemical thing of eyes everywhere.
The all-seeing eye.
Yes, the all-seeing eye, and that's that's the dream maker. You know.
Yeah, the Indians had that too symbol. They had the all-seeing eye. It was on a hand, the center of a hand. Eye. Very famous piece is the rattlesnake piece, which is a hand with an eye in it.
And you know that famous on the eye. I mean, that's just that is a divine image in Egypt. It's just the eye. You know, just a beautiful.
Yeah, the Egyptians
eye.
had that. Yeah.
So anyway, it's a very moving image, dream. The whole dream was moving, and I've been thinking about it. But let's
I just look at that as a reminder. You know, don't take your life too serious, Roy. You know, kind of lighten up. It's just a reminder. We shouldn't try to escape our life, but we should be reminded now and then. It is illusory. It's not the real serious thing. It's not who we really are. It's not our genuine self.
And that's something Jung said. Well, I'll just add this one thing. He said that he he gave to his life his utter devotion to his family, to his work, to civic life, to everything, and but he knew that the tasks of communicating with the unconscious, that was his blessed hour. This out here, he gave his utter devotion to, but it was really not the blessed hour, and so it's just it's a lesson to us all, and I just love the image. Well, anyway, I did. Let's try to spend some really quality time on two important dreams, Tim's and Charles. I got Charles in here in text. Did you want to just read it again, Charles? Because I played it back on video at like 0.75 speed. You should do that sometime. It just makes the dream magical. But go ahead, Charles.
All right. So, yeah, basically the premise of the dream is that I'm being constantly tested by the devil, and he's giving me all sorts of trials and tasks, and it's intuitively clear to me that everything he asks me to do is a step towards embodiment or coagulation. And what actually happens in the dream is that I'm in a living room of a house at nighttime, and it's dark, and my friend Chase is sitting with his dad watching TV, and that's the only light in the room. And I have a handful of colored pencils. I'm trying to leave and crawling under these sheets that are sort of set up like a tent, like how kids would set up a blanket fort in a living room. Crawling under them, trying to make my way out, and they're pretty transparent. I can see through them, and I can see Chase's father very clearly. I drop a bunch of the colored pencils on the hardwood floor and make a sound, and I'm just kind of froze looking at him, wondering if he can see me. And I ask him, "Can you see me?" And he says, "Yes, I can see you." I laugh and say, "Well, that makes sense. I can see you quite clearly, so I guess it's not just one way." All of a sudden, there's a knocking at the door. It's a police officer. I run out from under the sheets and jump on the sofa and hide under a blanket while Chase and his father answer the door. The police officer has a baby boy that he hands them. And I burst into tears and am overwhelmed by this because I know that it means that the baby boy is an orphan, is abandoned, and it is another test from the devil where I must now take care of the baby and adopt him. And the baby has a couple tattoos on his shoulders and has a nose piercing.
Okay. Yeah, that's the dream, right? Okay. All right. Well, now the beginning that you have to the dream is sort of a feeling that you had about the dream, right? It's just that this was a test, and it says it was clear in the beginning of the dream. But I think, do you mean from the beginning of the dream? It was clear.
No, I could tell that in the dream.
Yeah. Well, I meant from the beginning of the dream, it seemed like the whole dream, regardless of what the events were a test for you.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, let's look at, so ego is being tested by a supernatural, or let's say just a divine being that's not God, you know. And but he doesn't, he's called the devil, but I don't think this is a neutral being. This is not a being of malevolence or evil at all, you know. And now the trials and tasks are to the goals of embodiment and thickening, you know, earth coagulating. You know, you need to thicken yourself, be more coagulated, you know. And it was abundantly clear from the beginning of the dream that this was the tasks and trials, the goal, the way, the orientation of all the trials and tasks were to become embodied and to gain substance. Okay, that's what coagulation means, really. Instead of being sublimated and being air, you gain substance. Okay, now substance is matter. Matter, it comes from the word maternal. It comes from the Great Mother. So to become coagulated, to become embodied, means to become maternal substance. Okay, become nature, really. I mean, you're going to become in nature too, not just embodied. You're going to become in nature. Now you're in a house and you're in the living room. Now the living room is not the kitchen, it's not the bedroom, it's not the bathroom, it's not the dining room. It is a room where activity takes place that doesn't have to do with sleeping, that doesn't have to do with eating, that doesn't have to do with cooking, just this living room. Now, it's night and it's quite dark, okay? And so night is really is the time of soul. You know, day is the time of ego, but night is the time of soul. So we're in the realm of soul, the magic realm of soul at night. Everything becomes eerie. The what seems near is far, and what seems far is near, and everything blends into each other. And there just is certain, especially, let's just say that you, like my grandfather, you live in a place where there's no electricity, where you go outside and you see the Milky Way, you know, and it is there's no electric power. All the heat comes from a fire, not from a furnace, you know, the fire that you make yourselves. And so there isn't that much protection from you in the night. And what do you think what happens in the night? I mean, it becomes a little scary, especially when you live in a place where there's predators, you know, or even malevolent people. You know, I mean, they do all their work at night. But anyway, it's just a soulful time. Now, the dark sailor is there. Remember, the dark sailor, Chase, is the one who, I mean, he and his, what was her name? His girlfriend?
Rachel.
He and Rachel just do drugs, you know, do drugs and do sex, you know, and so they're participating in the unconscious, but it's not the transformational aspect. And, you know, unless he's gets special medical attention, he goes completely into the unconscious, and he's just basically dreaming all the time while he's awake. He's like my cousin Allison, you know, schizophrenic, you know, and Charles describes him as a burnt out volcano, which is if if you really are drugged up so that you're schizophrenic, and this is something that schizophrenics told von Franz, they said, oh, I was crazy all the time. He said they drugged me, and maybe it didn't come up so strongly, but I was just as crazy even with the drugs. So anyway, the only light in this room of night, used to be just a candle or a kerosene lamp or the hearth fire, but here it is the glowing light of a divisive transmission. Okay, some glowing transmission is the only light in this room. Okay, now Ego has a handful of colored pencils, and it is so really what are it has a handful of colors, and this is the emotive aspect of images. Both von Franz and Tony Wolff said it didn't count to just sketch your dreams. You needed to put colors in them. So it's pretty much the emotive aspect of the dream, of images, and so we're walking around with the thing about images that move us the most. Their colors, the yellows, the greens, the blues, the reds, the oranges, all of these colors. Or just think of the flowers. Think of a flower field in black and white. Think of, a big field of flowers, and it's in black and white. And then think of a big field of flowers that it's in just brilliant color. It's just totally a different world you live in. And you have this big handful of colors, and you are trying to leave, okay, with your hands full of colors. And what are you leaving through? You are leaving through a tunnel of a diaphanous cloth. Okay, it is a rebirth. You're leaving with a handful of colors through a symbolic rebirth, through the uterine canal, and you were with these colors. And as you're going through there, you this symbolic birth, holding the emotion of the imaginal world with you. So in other words, you're going to be born carrying the imaginal world with you. See, what you're carrying is the imaginal world in your hand, and you're going to be reborn now with the imaginal realm with you carrying it into this world, the imaginal world. Okay, and then you drop the colors onto the hardwood floor. And up to this point, you didn't think that maybe Chasen, his father, saw you. And by the way, it is the Dark Sailor and the father of the Dark Sailor. The Dark Sailor is someone related to the unconscious, but not transformation. And this is his father. Or he represents something to do with the father world. So you're going through this maternal uterine canal with holding the symbolic imaginal world in your hand. You make a noise in that thing, and then you and this father, you on the inside, he on the outside, exchange looks. And then you look at him and you say, "Can you see me?" "Yeah, I can see you." And you say, "Oh, well, this isn't the one way that I can see you." The father can look in to the maternal, this maternal funnel of rebirth, and I can look out at the father or the outside world from this thing. And then Okay, now that leads to a transition. We suddenly move to a different aspect. So what have we had so far here? I mean, let's just kind of review. We've got you know that we've got this preamble to it, that this all has to do with becoming nature, becoming substance, psychic substance, but it's not ethereal. It is embodied, and it's close to the earth. So we're going to be close to the earth, but we're going to be also connected with the imaginal world at the same time. And we do it through this symbolic rebirth and through the tests of a center being who is not the good God, but he's not the malevolent God either. He's like an elfin being. What did you need?
Your phone.
My phone. Just a second.
It's not here.
All right, just a second here. I will beep it. Are you hearing it?
I thought I heard it.
Okay, just a second here. Okay, well, let's keep going. So now there is this transition, and there is a knocking at the door in the dead of night, you know. And who is it? It is a representative of the law. Whose law? Is it our law? Is it the representative of our law? Our
What's your code?
9155. It's the representative of our law, or is it, you know, which would be our root, our rhizome? Okay, it would be the self. Now remember, perhaps this representative of our law is that being we call the devil, that he's really the divine God, the divine God of a daemon of the neutral realms, and he is bringing us. Who is he bringing us? He's bringing us an abandoned orphan, just born. That's who he's bringing us, and it is we suddenly experience a great catharsis. You know, the floodgates open. You know, this is the whole idea of bursting into tears. Imagine never bursting into tears. When you burst into tears, it is a great release. Most people have been holding it in, and then suddenly they can release. I mean, you can feel sometimes something like that happens, and it is suddenly you're in another realm. You know, it often happens. You know, where you know, I think von Franz mentioned this, that the knowledge of someone is going to die, you can deal with. But when they actually die, you just melt into a puddle. I mean, this was what someone who saw bodies coming in Dover, a guy who handled it, one person said, well, it looks like everybody's pretty under control. He says, no, they're not. He says, just wait. And as soon as the door opens, everybody, it's just an overwhelming event. So this is this overwhelming event. Our law or someone's law brings an abandoned orphan to us. Okay, knocks on the door, opens it up. Here's what you need. You need to take care of the abandoned orphan, you know. And and now this isn't just any abandoned orphan either. It is one who is covered with symbols. It is a symbolic child. He is covered with symbols, and he also is even pierced with symbols. Now, this is really why the Picts. That's what they used to call the Scottish people. They were called the Picts, Picts, and that was the name that the Romans gave them because they were covered with tattoos. And this was not done frivolously. This was done to become a divine being on earth. You would cover yourself with symbols, and then the piercing also was the ring put in the nose meant that you belong to someone else. It had some. I'm not exactly sure what it means, but it is definitely a ritualized sense of belonging to something. Usually at thresholds, crossings, that you needed to be either scarred or tattooed. And it was a symbol of your transition. You're crossing a threshold. And so, why do young people get all tatted up and get all pierced up? Because in our God-forsaken age, there is nothing to belong to. They don't have they're orphans. They are abandoned. Okay. And this is what, who was it? Well, someone, Marion Woodman said that we are all orphans and the whole world is an orphanage. The entire world is an orphanage. And we are all abandoned orphan child. Now, in this case, Charles is, this is the ultimate task of task. And Charles, I was going to try to find that picture that you had of you riding in the train, or of your train car. Do you have that available, showing your train car? Or maybe I can find it, but because all I wanted to show was this: you have an abandoned. Now, I want you to tell me too if this has anything to do with your dream. But anyway, Roy, what do you think about the dream?
Well, it seems like Charles saying in the dream that, he burst into tears when the police officer had the child and he realized it was an orphan child. So there's some feeling and emotion there. But this child seems more to me a survival child. He's not the real child. He's the survival child. And so that relates to Charles. Charles being under the sheets with the colored pencils relates to Charles. I don't see a connection with the personal spirit. And I think that's why he feels the devil's playing a hand here trying to test him because he hadn't connected with the personal spirit yet. I mean, it's a very difficult thing to have that epiphany. I don't think it's in this dream. That's my personal opinion. So he feels responsibility for the survival child. This is not the personal spirit child, an incorruptible child.
The divine child.
The divine.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it is. It is.
So I feel like that's where he's at. That's where he's at. He's at this point where it's almost like he's developing a super ego. He's at that point now, which is important. At his age and stuff, that's something he has to reckon with.
And I think to heal himself, he needs to heal this person here.
Yeah, that's him right there.
Yeah. That's
the survival child.
To heal himself. And by the way, I really, one thing is the great gravity of Charles' dreams. I mean, Gary and Tim and Roy and I are all of a different generation. And I really think it's a privilege to hear the dreams of the current generation, you know, it is really, I mean, you notice some of the motifs in it are stuff that maybe we're not so familiar with, but this is what the current generation is dealing with, you know. But anyway, Tim, what do you have any thoughts about it?
Yeah, I want to ask Charles, is the reason that you burst into tears because the boy is abandoned or because you have to take care of it?
It's both. It was just, yeah, I mean, both of those factors. One, it was very painful to have this abandoned child show up. And then it was a very heavy weight to know that that I was going to be his caretaker. And I also think it was like a no turning back situation where it's like, it was, for some reason, it was just like very clear that it was like, this is happening and there's no way I can get out of it. And I have just made this turn down this road that I can like never go back from. And that's just the way it is. And things have permanently changed and there's just nothing I can do about it.
Fate knocked at the
Okay.
door.
Yeah. Well, it's the way I'm seeing this is that the tent is the birth canal, and it's like you're experiencing rebirth that incorporates not just kind of a raw, you know, I think of a baby when they're born, they're just sort of what's the word?
When a
Raw-
baby is born.
Raw impressionism. It's just you're exposed to all the impressions of the world, and there's no formation yet. There's no meaning yet. So in this seems like a rebirth, and you've got a fistful of color. So it's a rebirth that is enhanced by emotion and by meaning and some kind of fitting into the rest of glorious nature. And at the very same time, this delivery comes to the door opens and you see the birth from the outside, and what is delivered into your space is this baby boy who is abandoned. And so you're both the boy being born and the receptor of this baby. So it seems like part of your history, part of your personality is this undeveloped baby that is vulnerable and needs nurture, but there's a kind of maturity that we don't usually associate with babies. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that's wonderful, Tim. Think of Tim really brought it out. There's two aspects here. One is the embodiment and the coagulation side. And then Roy mentioned this too. And the other is the healing of the wound. And what is the wound? We are an abandoned orphanage. So you got the idea of embodiment in nature and coagulation, the fact that we are wounded and healing the wound. And what wound are we healed? We are the abandoned orphan child. You know, what do you think, Gary?
Yeah, it's all very interesting. So I'm thinking, well, first off, the devil in this, I think the devil is often the rejected aspect. So I think that's, and as a symbol, the rejected aspect, I think really fits here. So the rejected aspect of Charles is testing him. Now, the sheet, to me, I think it's more like the veil. This is the veil that you try to keep between you and the world. I'm not seeing this as a birth canal. It's the veil and the colored pencils. These are your chosen instruments for how you are going to proceed and sense the world. And, instead of like a full opening, a full perception, it's going to be through this particular limited aspect. And, and when you hear the noise and, you make the noise and you're like worried, like, well, is the veil going to still protect me? Can I still remain apart from the world? And it's like, no, we see you. So then the knock on the door, and the knock on the door is the authority figure that cannot be refused. You can't say no. And the baby is this is, it's not the divine child, it's the undeveloped aspect of you that, that is being handed to you. And it's like, no, this is the work, this is the development area. But but that emotional response, that's the breaking through of the veil. That's the awakening. That's the really truthful part of the whole dream, was that emotional response. Before, you were trying to keep, the veil between you and the world. You didn't want to be seen. And now you realize that no, it's, the world will have to be participated with, and the baby is not fully formed. It's marked symbolically, and like the thing through the nose. I mean, that's actually for certain tribes, that's actually one of the rites of passage. That shows that you've reached a certain stage. So in a sense, the baby is a baby, yet in another sense, it's actually a young adult. And it's still, the one that has to be accepted and brought into your life. And like you said, the whole dream is one of embodiment. How do you bring everything down to earth? And of course, that's kind of like, that's been a bit of a repeating theme. And so, we see it again here in the handing to you of, the responsibility for developing and in an embodied manner, this baby who is from the world. That's what I see.
Yeah, well, that is so human, Gary. Absolutely human. I mean, the aspect is that we are trying to have a protective veil between us and the world. We think the outer world doesn't see us, and even though we can see out, and we want to, it's symbolic aspect of separation from being alive. Okay, it's a separation from being alive, and until So it can be both is until you get out of from under that thing. Now, when the one who can't be denied knocks on the door, we suddenly leave. We know we need to leave that thing, and then we go hide under something that is not so transparent and diaphanous, something that's more opaque. And then, but then when we hear that it is the abandoned orphan child, and now we have fate has laid a great burden upon us. We need to heal ourselves, and there is no escaping it. And at that point, the floodgates break open. There is no veil anymore. We're experiencing the naked truth of our own existence. Where there's no veils anymore. What do you think, Charles? I mean, you just had this Monday or Sunday?
Yeah, just a couple of days ago.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with Gary. I don't think that it's the sheets or like a birth canal or anything. I just feel like it's a really crappy attempt to hide myself, and that my hiding just isn't really working any longer. Yeah, it's really more just like a veil that doesn't work very good at all. And yeah, I don't know exactly why this dream came at exactly this time, but it's like just a kind of responsibility was just kind of laid at my doorstep that I seem to have no say in. And in the dream, I can't question it or deny it. So I'm assuming it's something that, outside of the dream that I can't get away from whatsoever. And it's just like, I almost think that it kind of just means that I have to actually take care of myself and take responsibility for myself and care for myself. But it's like a child because that never really happened. So it's sort of starting from that beginning stages. It's just it's like the care of me is as old as that child. It just hasn't really happened much, but yeah, I mean, that's what I think about it.
Yeah, and one other thing that Gary mentioned, which is very important, is the colors that we're holding are really our medium of expression. So we are carrying with us our medium of expression, and the colors are very important. I was trying to think of this this painting school, and I was wondering if you remembered it, Tim, that just painted in these unbelievably bright colors at the beginning of the 19th century. They did, but this being with 1,000 colors, with its obviously lavish play of colors, represents a complete unfolding because the self wishes to realize itself, namely in the abundance of its qualities of colors. It can only do so when the human being, gives its actions to perform. Without such actions, the self cannot unfold, since the self appears only in what we do. If we give it nothing to do or nothing more to do, then the self remains invisible, imprisoned inside itself, and robbed of its impetus. It cannot unfold anymore as we have withdrawn the necessary basis, and as a consequence, it turns into the angel of melancholy. And in dreams and alchemy, sometimes appears the arresting palette of the cauda pavonis and the peacock's tails. In colorful reaction, we find life. So anyway, it is the medium of expression in colors, and in wonderful refraction we find life. Refraction is, you take the white light and all of the qualities burst forth. This is really the imaginal world, because it's this latent potentiality in the unconscious. As soon as it enters the dream, it enters through the portal of consciousness, and even comes into this strange consciousness that we have in dreams. It bursts into 1,000 colors. And then when we bring it into the outer world, it's 1,000 colors too. So let's just review it real quickly. See, we spent a lot of time on this. But first of all, it's just the whole thing from the beginning seemed to be something like the goal of embodiment and coagulation, but also the healing of the wound. It also has to do with the healing of our birth, our wound, our childhood, the one that has gathered us all this time. We're in the room at night, in the darkness, with the dark sailor and his father, and the only light is this strange glowing light of this device of transmission. Now the ego has a handful of the medium of expression in colors, and it is trying with its medium of expression in colors. It is trying, as Charles says, in a lame way, trying to shield itself from participation in the outer world. Maybe this will heal our wounds. Maybe it will heal our wounds if we just hide. If we hide, and maybe we don't expose the fact that we're a wounded child. Everything will be fine. There won't be a problem. But suddenly, a knock on the door. A knock on the door. What does the knock on the door mean? The knock on the door. Always ominous. It's an omen. When you hear the knock. That. Everybody's startled. Especially at the dark of night when you weren't expecting that knock. Who could it be? We weren't expecting anybody. Opens up. It's always startling to see a police officer standing there. You suddenly are, truth has knocked on the door. This is the judge, the one the one who says, I accuse, and he presents us with the abandoned orphan child. What does this mean? And it's not just now I loved both Tim and Gary both mentioned this, that it has a strange maturity, and Roy did too. It's a strange maturity. It's not the divine child. It's our wounded. It's symbol of our woundedness, and you, what did you call that, Roy? Donald
The survival self.
The survival self. Yeah, this is the survival self. But it's the one that through healing it or through treating it, we heal ourselves. The one sober drunk needs another sober drunk, like a man lost at sea needs a lifeboat. This is what Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob discovered. the only way through healing the pain of addiction is through healing someone else who has the same addiction. And in our case, it is healing our wounded child. You know, I mean, I think this is that. I think this is the principle that Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob tried everything, and the only way they could finally figure it out is it just came to them. They needed to go to a hospital where there was people who were desperately at the death's door because of alcohol addiction, and just talk to them and listen to their stories. You know, they didn't really try to give them advice. They just wanted to hear their stories. I mean, it's a healing through listening to stories. You know, and this is really what happens in the sacred circle. You know, at the most sacred event in Native American tribes, where everyone sits in a circle and they tell a story, the kind of story that Roy was talking about. You know, one that is about a little bit different aspect than what, you know, tell me the story of your life. No, don't tell me the story of your life. Tell me about the Kairos moments of your life. You know, those absolutely omen moments. So anyway, and does anyone have any comments about it before we move on?
You know,
Yeah,
this, remember this, Charles, this isn't mental. Remember how we can get it. You know, it's mental, we get it. But this is the real thing. You know, it's just like the fox. You have to relate, you have to be authentic, you have to be creative. This is ancient wisdom. This is real. This isn't mental. You know, this is the real thing here. I mean, I hope you get it. I mean, this is a tremendous thing. This dream is tremendous.
I think that's such a good point, Roy, because you're right. This isn't the intellect. This is experiencing. This is the intuition. This is the potential of becoming. You know, it's all very different from, you know, an intellectual exercise that may or may not affect us. This is life. You know, this is the realest part of this is when you realize the responsibility and how life will change, and, you know, and you just break down into tears, because that is the authentic experience. That is what I think Craig was talking about when he said, you know, when we see someone's at the point of death, it's one thing, and then when they die, it's just this huge release. And this, and the child, it's the same thing. And there's nothing more real.
Any other, Charles or Tim, do you?
Well, I just wanted to add that the colors seem to me like the pieces of individuality. You know, I keep thinking of Jung's comment that every act of individuality is a violation of the norm. And it takes real courage to violate the norm. And every one of those colors is a violation. And so the more colorful you become, the more of an individual you are, and the more you can inhabit yourself. The capital S self.
It's an incredibly important dream. It really is. Anyway, Charles, you didn't have any more on it then? Final comments? Okay. Well, Tim, we lingered a little long on this one. Let's see what we can get done on Tim's dream, because it is also very important. Do you want to just read it real quick again to remind everybody? I put it in the chat. Yeah, just unmute yourself real quick.
Okay, no passage. I'm at a kind of pavilion at the end of a dock, and my Iranian friend has shared with me parts of her journal in a little book. I don't know where she is, but I'm sitting at a little table looking through the book when an irritating man comes up, sees it, and takes it away from me. I say, it's her journal, it's private. And he says he won't look, but then he doesn't give it back. Upon my return, probably to where the doc came from, there's an officer at a table and a robot who is checking that everyone has a pass. When he gets to me, an alarm goes off and he won't let me pass. I'm puzzled, but I'm wearing a heavy sweater, which I take off and throw onto the other side of the barrier. Then the robot has me lift my arms and turn around and bend at the waist. I say to the officer, what the heck does he want from me?
Okay, well, let's go through it. I'm going to try to be quick too, so we can all get, because it's, I think we were making some good progress last time because we saw some similarities with other dreams. But we're at an extension into the unconscious, the dock. It's an extension from the land out into the unconscious. And at the end, there's sort of this organized little area there, and where they have little tables and there's people gathering. Now, we have a book from the anima. She's Persian. So she's related to the realm of the Sufi mystics, Rumi and Kahil Gibran and all of these wonderful people of the imaginal realms. I mean, they're just these absolute. They are people who are conduits. And she gives you her book of her little Rumi poems. Now, you don't know where she is. I mean, this is, again, she's an absent anima. And, but you're sitting at a little table looking through the book. When this is the same figure that comes up in the House of Four Women dream, and in the house, and the dream of the play with Elisa, I keep missing her, pronouncing her name. But the one who says no, comes up and takes it. And then we tell him it's her, this time it's the shadow. It's not this woman, the same one we saw in the iceberg or the diorama dream. I say it's her journal, it's private. He says, I'm not going to look at it, but I'm not giving it back either. Isn't this a strange thing? You can't have it. What does that mean? We're not entitled to it? We're not ready for it? I mean, there's just this aspect of there is something keeping us from getting it. And this obstacle we've seen in the diorama dream, in the crazy woman dream, in the dream of the spiritus rector, in the dream of the four House of the Four Women, and in the dream of the play, there's something, and there are a couple others, but there's some unknown obstacle for our breakthrough, whatever that breakthrough is supposed to be. Now, on our return, there is an officer at a table and a robot who is checking that everyone has a pass. Now, I think it was Charles that mentioned that this was or maybe it was Gary, I can't remember, but it was we saw this at the hotel where they didn't have a clerk. They just had some kind of a vending machine, or I don't know what
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And anyway, when he gets to me, an alarm goes off and he won't let me pass. Now this was the aspect that was similar to Roy's dream. And we're puzzled, okay? Why won't he let me pass? Now, basically what is happening, Tim, is this, aren't we trying to come back after we were at this extension of the unconscious?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so now we're trying to come back to land. Is that right? You're leaving the dock? You're coming back onto the land off the dock?
I don't have a sense, but
Okay,
that's
well, yeah.
my supposition.
All right, but anyway, there is an aspect that we can't leave. Now, what we do, we're puzzled, but we take off sub persona and we throw it onto the other side of the barrier, wherever the other side of the barrier is. So now an aspect of our persona is on the other side. Okay, and so now part of our persona is on one side of the barrier, we're on the other. And then the robot bot and says, wants us to lift our arms, turn around, and bend at the waist. I mean, I don't know what he's going to do. Is he going to frisk us or what? And because the idea was that everyone has a pass. You don't have a pass. But then what you're saying is, when he gets to me, an alarm goes off and he won't let me pass. Upon my return, there's an officer at the table and wrote, he's checking that everyone has a pass. Did you have a pass?
I think the reason I'm confused is I either have a pass or I'm expecting to be allowed
through,
in.
whether you have a
Yeah.
pass or not.
Right.
Okay, then now the robot is doing arbitrary things that delaying our progress. So what's the crises in dreams? One is the magical book of the anima has been stolen from us by the shadow. He doesn't want to look at it, but he says we can't have it either. So then we tried to come back. There is this automated authority figure. In other words, one that we can't have any relationship, and has no compassion, and it is not letting us through. And now it's sort of torturing us a little bit. Not only can't we leave, not only can't we have the magical book of the anima, the shadow steals it, but now we can't leave. Now we throw our persona over on the other side of the thing, which is important. I'm not sure what it means, but it certainly means something. What do you think, Roy?
Yeah, well, it's kind of different from my dream in that I wasn't provoked or hassled. There's a lot of provocation and hassling in here. Tim's just minding his business. He's connected with the anima. He's sort of doing endogenous stuff, thinking, not bothering anybody, and he's deliberately provoked. His property was taken from him, and he's harassed. So this dream has something to do with it doesn't seem like Tim can deal with the confrontation. You know, he's fine by himself and doing artistic stuff or creative and stuff, but there's these shadow figures that can just come in his life and have their way with him, and he doesn't seem to be able to confront them. I don't know what that's about, but that's what I'm getting.
Yeah, well, that's very good. Everybody's been just wonderful. You know, one thing, Gary, I just want to compliment you on stepping in to Charles' dream. I mean, I just had a feeling that you were experiencing each aspect there in a very human way. What do you think about this dream, Gary?
Well, I'm going to kind of go back to basics on this one.
Yeah, great.
And so let's say that the self is in this dream, where he's at the end of the dock, that is the capital S self. Cat just clawed me. But, jumping on and off and like, yeah, but,
Mhm.
but so we know that the unconscious kind of reflects on, it makes its comments on what it sees going on in our life. So in this case, the capital S self, this is the unconscious. It's right next to the ocean. And it's participating in the things that it needs to individuate. And it has the connection with the anima, with the journal. So then some aspect of Tim, some annoying, irritating part of him comes up and stops this process. And the self responds that the journal's private, but it doesn't matter, it won't give it back. And so then to continue the same theme, when he goes back, there's an even more authoritative figure with an authoritative figure with a mechanical partner that can't even be reasoned with. And so, this is not, a robot you cannot dialogue with. The officer you probably can't dialogue with. At least the irritating man you could have, the beginnings of a conversation with. But so it's gone from bad to worse. And so there's like this additional barrier to getting back to the poetry that the anima has to offer for our individuation. And the self, in showing how annoyed it is with this whole situation, gives the metaphor of bending over and grabbing the ankles. I'm just surprised
Yeah,
that, didn't also make him take off his pants at the same time and put on the glove, So that's kind of my take.
Yeah, that was wonderful. Okay, because you really highlighted the characters in there. First, there's the magical anima, this magical Persian Sufi anima, who's connected with the most lyrical, imaginal world possible. I don't know if you've ever read Rumi. It's just like it's like Mozart.
Yeah, I have some of his works. He's beautiful.
It's absolutely a revelatory, Okay, you got that figure. Then you've got this shadow who just is going to withhold things from us. Not going to use it himself, but he's going to withhold it from us. I mean, just walks up to us. Now, this is so strange. Do you even know who he is?
No.
Just an unknown person sees us sitting there, sees a man, a stranger reading a book, comes up and snatches it. So, I mean, it shows that he has some type of omniscience. Okay. He's sort of all knowing. He knows something, even though he's unknown. He took it for a reason, and it's because of something, one of these strange things that's an obstacle. Then, can you imagine if our shadow was a robot? Let's say, now see, like Gary said, the shadow is at least can be reasoned with, even if it's stubborn and irrational. But the robot's not even stubborn. It's completely unyielding in a mechanical way. It has nothing to do with being stubborn. It's just its program is set, and that you're not going to violate the parameters of the program. And it is, I think that is the image that, bend over, grab the ankles, and we're going to check certain passages, which is just absolutely crazy. In this instance, what does that have to do with anything? And so here's your figures. The divine magical anima. Now he's mysterious. You got to give the devil his due. A mysterious shadow figure, but yet one who's just for no reason, and he can't use it either, but he's stealing the magical thing from us. And then there's this totally impersonal aspect. Now, Tim, I think you've experienced this totally impersonal aspect, and it seems to be in something that is very moving to you. Well, let's hear from Charles, and then have Tim. I am sorry we went over a little bit on Charles Rainbow. That was not right. But go ahead, Charles. What do you think?
I mean, I don't know. I don't really have anything in addition to what I said last time, but also right now I'm just trying to make sense of the throwing of the sweater onto the other side of the barrier. I'm just kind of looking at that and trying to figure that out.
Yeah, that is a very mysterious act. Casting the thing. See, that's what a symbol means. You know, if you look at the thing, it means there's something about throwing something. Let me look it up. Well, Tim, why don't you tell us your impressions of the dream? Because there's all kinds of emotional aspects that you experience that we're not privy to.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I kind of attach to, one interpretation I attach to, is this difficulty I have coming into the dominant culture from my kind of isolated world in the studio. And oftentimes I feel like I don't have what it takes. And what it takes is something really visceral, you know. And also I'm thinking of the sweater kind of maybe as a kind of protection. And so I'm voluntarily losing my protection to say my passage is my authenticity. And that just makes no difference at all to the machine. So it feels like yet another frustration of having to deal with this kind of faceless bureaucracy kind of thing.
Yeah, it is. The faceless bureaucracy is probably the art world. You know, I mean, the art world is somewhat robotic. You know, I just wanted to show this aspect. Now, I'm not saying this applies to the sweater, but you know, a symbol means to throw a token. You know, to throw some image, to throw an image. You know, and and what is the image of the sweater? You know, the sweater represents something to do with human warmth. You know, to keeping to providing warmth of the human being, and so I mean, is there any warmth in the robot? You know, there's you know, and so I'm not saying what it means, but let's say we don't even know what it means. You have to say that is a powerful image. It really is a powerful image. You know, Roy, do you have any further observations about any of this?
No, I like Tim's angle at, you know, the outside the art world, you know, dealing with the outside world. It's kind of all got the adjectives for it. We know what it is.
Don't you think that
we have to
some-
learn how to deal with it. We have to learn how to deal with it. It's just going to haunt us and turn into a shadow if we don't.
Yep.
Don't you think that is true too? Something, all the mystery of all of these dreams that we're having, where there's some blocking to to the magical journal of the anima, of the Persian anima, has something to do with everything that we do is turned back, is rejected. I mean, isn't the art world somewhat like the woman who stands in the parking lot at the House of Four Women, or the woman who won't let us go into the play?
Oh, yeah,
I-
right.
And it's also the guard. Okay, these are also guardians of the gate. Okay, the robot and this officer. That woman is the guardian of the gate, and the other woman is the guardian of the gate, and they won't let us pass.
Yep.
And yeah, and so there's some magical thing on the other side, but the art world is not letting us experience it. At least the guardians of the gate of the art world
Uh-huh.
are not letting us experience it. But what is it? Because it can't be artistic success and big money making in the art realm. There is a symbolic aspect. It doesn't have anything to do with our art being sold in the galleries, but it has to do with our art being sold in the galleries within us, within you, not in the galleries. But there's an analogy within you, Tim, that you need. That there's something. I don't know. I can't. I mean, I think I'm on the verge of something, but I can't really right now. Did Roy or Tim, do you have anybody can help out here?
Well,
You know, think?
Tim
Go ahead.
said something about he was having a problem with the mechanical way of relating. And the unconscious demands you to be authentic. And it seems like that's hard for Tim in those conditions with those people.
I don't know. I can't. I
mean,
know about
he said something about mechanical way of relating. He has a problem with a mechanical way of relating. That's his words. I don't know if he wants to tell us more about that. But the unconscious demands us to be authentic, not mechanical.
Right. Yeah. What I object to most about modern civilization is mechanizing everything to make it more efficient, which always means less human, because humans are not efficient. We are, we demand the quality of life and good food and clean water and things that are just really hard to obtain.
Well, I wish that we could.
You're
Go ahead.
naming the beast now. You're naming him, Tim. I mean, if you
Yep.
can give it a name, then it takes some power away.
Rumpelstiltskin.
Yeah, that's right.
If you can guess Rumpelstiltskin's name, he'll blow up. Well, anyway, let's next time let's go over this one more time, because I think we have not really polished it up yet. Gary or Charles, do you have any closing comments? But it's such an important dream, really. It is, because the guardian of the gate. Go ahead, Gary.
I like what Charles said about the sweater, and actually you as well. And I think, it's the idea of, it's the thing which keeps us humanly warm. And so even though he's blocked from that side, he now sends a token over to the other side of human warmth.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
So
That's
you
great.
could have done that in the House of Four Women. You could have done that in the place of the play. That if I can't go there, some of my human warmth is going to go there, even if my awareness can't go.
Right.
Yeah, well, let's finish this up next time, because they're both, and Charles, wonderful dream. I mean, I'd like to hear some of your thoughts about it next time. So anyway, well, thank you, Roy and Tim and Gary and Charles. We'll see you next time. This is beautiful, by the way. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
See you later. Bye-bye.